This episode of Doc's Boost is, in short, all about disaster on the dyno. Not a lot of shit hitting the fan, but enough for me to shout, "Ah, crap!" and start pulling things apart again. Hi, I'm Doc, and you're watching Doc's Boost because you know I'm going to give you the truth about high-performance maintenance, high-performance upgrades, and getting out there and having some high-performance fun with your ride. Dream it. Build it and drive it like you stole it. But more important than sharing the disaster is sharing how you can avoid disaster during your build. The GT500 was on the dyno for the second round of tuning. A hunt problem needed to be addressed, as well as updating the tables for a 2.7 supercharger pulley instead of the 2.5 I had originally put on this build. The 2.5 was just spinning the death out of that M122, and the cammed 5.4 liter Shelby just could not build enough boost because of that. Valves were opening too soon. So anyway, I digress. Let's get back to the point. Everything was going as planned during the first pull. Check it out. Oh, gee, I loved watching that car rev it up on the dyno. But anyway, a tweak here, a tweak there, and the second pull was done. Then after returning to idle and moments after the tech getting out of the car, remember, the engine's still idling. BAM! Disaster. Quickly, the tech turned off the car and pretty much saved me from catastrophic damage. What happened was the sprocket retaining bolt on the right intake camshaft came loose and pushed its way out the valve cover. As you can see from these pictures, it's not pretty. At least the damage wasn't catastrophic, right? Removal of the valve cover revealed the bolt sticking out of the threaded bore on the cam. A broken sprocket, a broken secondary chain, a damaged keyway on the camshaft, and of course a busted valve cover. Those were the obvious problems. We were able to recover most of the broken gear, the snap chain was stuck in place, and the damage on the bolt's curious, to say the least. Take a look at this. What the fuck could have caused thread damage in two different places? Man, that was a question that just puzzled me to death. One thing for sure is that there's no indication of Loctite on the bolt. This bolt should definitely have visible Loctite residue on it. Don't make this mistake and fail to use Loctite on all critical internal threaded connections. Looking at the damaged pattern on the bolt, what doesn't make sense is how in the hell did the threads get damaged in two different places without damaging all of it? Think about it. If the threads gave out, then all of the damage would be contiguous. The damage would not be spaced out like this. For me, that question had to be answered, because that was the key to what really happened. At this point, we could not tell if any pistons were damaged. It is certain that at least two intake valves in one of the cylinders was bent. There's absolutely no possibility that all four cylinders on the right bank survived the hit without damage. Just can't happen. After getting the Shelby towed back to the house, I removed the valve cover again and removed the intake camshaft and spark plugs with the idea that I would remove the exhaust cam too, so I could do an air pressure test to find out what cylinder suffered the damage. But after removing the intake camshaft, I decided not to touch the exhaust cam because I didn't want to disturb the primary chain, which didn't suffer any damage whatsoever. So, after getting those plugs out, I used a scope cam to inspect the pistons and found no damage. That was lucky. All the new forged internals, the rods, the pistons, the wrist pins, the rings were all still intact. Thank God. Here, I'll show you what I found. And this one... And this one. Then I cleaned up the camshaft board to scope the threads. Curious enough, I found no damage to the threads. They all were pretty sharp. Take a look. What do you think? Even though the video capture of the threaded hole is a little lacking in contrast, one can easily tell that the sharp edges of the threads are indeed intact all the way down. And since the camshaft is hollow and there's no possibility that the bolt bottoming out before it was tight against the sprocket just didn't exist. That possibility was completely eliminated. After playing around with several working theories, I finally settled on what I think to be the only feasible explanation that could have caused the damage pattern found on the bolt. First, the bolt didn't have Loctite on it, and secondly, I believe the bolt was not torqued. It was missed, for whatever reason. Perhaps a distraction. Who knows for sure? Those things can happen. Don't make those two mistakes. Use Loctite and be careful of distractions when performing critical activities during your build. Anyway, as the bolt made its way out of the bore and arrived at the end, or at the beginning as it were, of the threads, the head of the bolt started pressing against the inside of that valve cover and inevitably pushed its way through the valve cover. That caused the bolt to rotate in such a manner to cause damage at the tip of the bolt and at this spot of the bolt as it rotated against the inner edge of the camshaft opening. The pattern and distances matched exactly with one another. The engine is now out and disassembled and ready for delivery to the engine builder again. The new valve cover is at Cordello Customs and powder coating is taking place. A new camshaft, bolt, chain, sprocket, gaskets will arrive any day now. While we wait for everything to unfold and get the engine running again, let's watch this racing video of the 2.5-mile Mondo road course layout here at Wild Horse Pass in Phoenix. I'll see you in that video in a moment. And I promise to keep you updated about the Shelby build, and thanks for watching.